I should never have opened it. The rule was simple: never open the red door. When I signed the lease, the landlord barely looked at me. His hands trembled as he slid the contract across the table. "Just one condition," he muttered. "The basement door, the red one, never open it." I laughed at first. "What, is there a monster down there?" His face paled. "Just don't." I should have listened. The house was old, Victorian style, with warped wooden floors and walls that groaned at night. It had been abandoned for years before I moved in. The rent was ridiculously cheap, which should have been a red flag, but I was broke and desperate. For the first week, I barely noticed the basement door. It was tucked away in the corner of the kitchen, its red paint peeling like dead skin. Something about it unsettled me, though I couldn't explain why. Then the knocking started. At first it was subtle, a faint tap, tap, tap late at night. I told myself it was the pipes, the house settled. But as the nights passed, the knocking grew louder, faster. By the second week, it wasn't just knocking, it was scratching. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. to the sound of fingernails clawing at wood. Slow, deliberate, like something trying to get out. I stopped sleeping. I shoved a chair against the door. I played music at night to drown out the noise, but nothing helped. Then, 2 nights ago, I heard something that made my skin crawl. A voice, muffled, whimpering. "Please, help me." I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. Sleep deprivation, stress, paranoia. But last night, when I passed the basement door on my way to bed, I saw something that changed everything. Someone had written on it. Not with paint, not with a marker, with deep, jagged scratches. "Let me out." I stared at the words, my heart pounding. My hands shook as I reached out, tracing the grooves. The wood was wet. Then the door breathed. I stumbled back. It was slight, barely perceptible, but the door inhaled. The wood expanded and contracted, like lungs filling with air. I ran to my room, locked the door, and didn't sleep. This morning, I decided I was done. I was going to break my lease, leave the deposit, and never come back. But as I packed my bags, my phone buzzed. A text from my number. "Don't leave. Open the door." I froze. My breath hitched. My hands turned ice cold. Another text. "Please, let me out." I dropped my phone and bolted for the front door. But when I grabbed the knob, it wouldn't turn. Deadbolt stuck, chains rattling. The door wouldn't open. Panic surged through me. I grabbed my keys, tried the back door. Locked. The windows won't budge. I was trapped, and then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap behind me. I turned, trembling. The red door stood at the end of the hall, its surface warping, bulging outward as if something inside was pushing against it. A long, deep creak filled the room. The door was opening. I don't know why I stepped forward. Maybe it was the whispering, weaving through my mind like a thread, tugging me closer. Maybe it was the familiarity in the voice. It sounded like me. I swallowed hard. My fingers hovered over the doorknob. It was warm, pulsing, like a heartbeat. I turned it. The door swung open, revealing nothing but darkness, an endless void stretching beyond what my mind could comprehend. The air reeked, rotting wood and something sweet like spoiled fruit. And then Hands. Pale skeletal hands, hundreds of them, reaching from the darkness. They grabbed my arms, my legs, my throat. Cold fingers dug into my skin, pulling, dragging. I tried to scream, but something covered my mouth. A hand. My hand. I looked down and saw my own face staring up at me from the darkness. Mouth open, grinning. The hands yanked and I fell. I woke up on the floor. The red door was closed. Everything was silent. The air felt heavier, charged with something wrong. I stumbled to my feet, my limbs aching. My skin crawled with the memory of those hands. I reached for my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. The time read 3:33 a.m. And then I saw it, a new text message from my number. You let me out. My heart stopped. My mouth went dry. Then, a knock, not from the basement, from my bedroom closet. Tap, tap, tap. I turned, my blood turning to ice. The door was ajar. A shadow moved inside. And then, a whisper, software familiar. It's your turn now. The moment I slammed the red door shut, the house fell into an unnatural silence. My heart pounded against my ribs, each beat a deafening echo in the void of sound. My phone was still gripped tightly in my trembling hand, its screen cracked from when I had dropped it in my blind panic. No signal. Of course. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. Nothing. Not a whisper of wind, not a distant creak of settling wood. But I knew I was not alone anymore. Something had changed the moment I disobeyed the rule. Shakily, I stepped back, forcing myself to breathe. The air in the house was heavier, thicker, like wading through unseen filth. The walls, once a dull beige, seemed darker, as though the color itself had been drained away. My reflection in the hall mirror looked off. Not wrong exactly, just delayed, like it took a second too long to mimic my movements. I turned away. My mind had to be playing tricks on me. I needed to get out of here. I rushed to the front door and gripped the handle. Locked. I hadn't locked it. I twisted the knob violently, yanking and pulling, but it refused to budge. Every exit was sealed, the windows reinforced with an unseen force. My breaths came fast and shallow as I backed into the living room. The TV turned on by itself, static. Then, beneath the hiss of white noise, something shifted. It was barely audible at first, a faint murmur that rose and fell like distant waves. Then, as I stepped closer, words began to form. You broke the rule. I spun around. No one was there. The voice, low, guttural, came from the screen, warping and twisting as if multiple voices were speaking at once. You let it out. I stumbled back. My knees hit the coffee table, sending magazines and a glass of water tumbling to the floor. The voice on the TV grew distorted, looping itself, repeating in an eerie chant. I grabbed the remote and slammed the power button. The screen flickered off, but the voice didn't stop. You let it out. You let it out. You let it. The words were no longer coming from the television. They were coming from upstairs. A slow, deliberate creak echoed from the hallway above, as though someone or something was shifting its weight. I clapped my hand over my mouth to muffle my breath. Another creak, then another. Footsteps, steady, careful footsteps pacing the corridor outside my room. I wasn't alone. I clenched my fists, my nails biting into my palms. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Maybe I had fallen asleep. Maybe this was some horrific nightmare, and I'd wake up in my bed, drenched in sweat, but safe. Another step. I turned toward the staircase. The air was dense, pressing in on me like a lead blanket. My vision blurred, but I forced myself to focus. Whatever was upstairs, I needed to see it. I needed to know. One step at a time, I ascended. My legs trembled with each movement, but I kept going, my breath a ragged whisper against the silence. The hallway was barely lit, just a sliver of moonlight leaking in through the window. My bedroom door was slightly open, the darkness inside yawning like an open maw. I reached for the door, hesitating for a fraction of a second before pushing it open. My room was exactly as I had left it, except for one thing. The mirror above my dresser reflected someone standing behind me. Not just someone, me. But I hadn't turned around. My reflection smirked. I couldn't move. My limbs locked in place as the thing in the mirror tilted its head, studying me. Its eyes darkened, swirling pits that absorbed the dim light of the room. Slowly, it lifted a hand and placed a single finger against its lips. Shh. The lights flickered. A deafening boom shook the house as the mirror shattered, sending shards flying in every direction. I stumbled back, my hands shielding my face. The air turned icy, my breath forming ghostly tendrils in the dark. The only light came from the hallway. Then I heard it, the sound of the red door creaking open. I whipped around, my pulse hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. The door at the end of the hall, the one I had shut, now gaped open like a wound in the house. Something stood in the doorway. Tall, gaunt, its limbs were too long, its fingers curled unnaturally as it clung to the frame. It had no face, just a stretched, featureless void where its eyes and mouth should have been. And yet, I felt it staring at me, watching me. Then, it moved. It took a step forward, then another, its joints popping and cracking with each unnatural motion. My legs refused to obey me. My breath came in shallow gasps as it drew closer, the air around it thick with an unbearable, suffocating dread. Then it stopped. A single whisper slithered through the air, curling around my ears like a breath against my skin. Run. The lights went out. What do you think is lurking beyond the red door? And more importantly, do you think I can escape? Drop your thoughts into the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and stay tuned for part 2.
Yeah.